Folks, welcome to the Gold Room and this, the grand finale of these 2 days of the WCEF. How you feeling? Brussels. All right, that's fine. I will accept your tepid applause and tepid excitement because I think what's happening is you're so busy thinking and pondering and being inspired and jotting down notes and going over the notes you already took. You're too mentally busy and intellectually fatigued to do the simplest thing on earth and cheer when cued to cheer. No, on second thought, I think you can multitask, so let's try it again. We are at the end of 2 fantastic, inspiring days. How's everybody feeling? I knew you had it in you. Well, look, I'm gonna say a couple of bits of business before we dive into this grand finale session. And first thing is that keep that feeling of enthusiastic, positive approval going, because we're gonna be sending you a survey at my notes say the very top of this final session. That makes me wonder if you're already receiving the survey now and are ignoring me while you fill out the survey, which frankly, I would be fine with. But we really could use that feedback. The more honest you are, the more clear you are, the more we can do more of what you like next year, less of what you didn't like next year. And if you liked my hosting, my name is Pep Rosenfeld, and if you didn't, I'm the former President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. We're going to, what else do I want to tell you? I want to tell you that the action's not over after this session. We've got over 50 accelerator sessions during the next couple days that are happening right here in Brussels, organized by partners and collaborators. And even after this week, when you think like, wow, that was a pretty busy week, certainly it's over now. No, it's not. There are around 80 different WCEF side events throughout the year happening all over the world. So pretty much wherever you are, you could spit and hit a WCEF event, but please don't spit, it's a waste of water. Now, I'm gonna begin by inviting up 2 people for a little chat in our cozy living room area here. First up, I want to invite up the Director of Sustainable Change, the Sustainable Change Studio, Hannah Ballard. Hannah, come on up on stage and join us and grab your seat. And while Hannah's taking her seat, I'd like to invite up one of the founding members and president of the European Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform. He's a policy officer, European Economic and Social Committee, as we all like to call it, the EESC, and a former cheesemaker. Please welcome Peter Schmidt. I'm gonna join you over there. And should we sit under each other's? No, okay. I thought it'd be fun and confusing, folks. I've got some questions for you. But here's the thing, I'd love it if you interrupt, well, don't interrupt each other, but if you have your own questions, you ask them. I'm curious what you have to say to each other. I'm curious for how you respond to what the other one says. But let me just start by asking you, Hannah, this is your second year here, and I'm wondering, oh no, I've got a better question to start. So I don't know, were y'all here yesterday at the beginning?
Yes.
Were you here yesterday at the beginning? That's good, because this would be a sour moment if we weren't. So I asked folks, yesterday to tell us how you were feeling about the possibility for change by their position. Was it this, or was it a brace position, which I'm too old to successfully do? Which positions did you take, and have they changed in the last, nearly 48 hours?
I made a choice to be optimistic. I think we can change, and I still think we can. It is a choice. There is a lot of road bumps and barriers in the way, but I think if we can't choose to be optimistic, who are we to expect other people to?
Fantastic answer. How about yourself, Peter?
I didn't understand the question.
Fair enough. So, Peter, on a scale, is your attitude about the possibility for change, has it changed since you walked in the doors yesterday? Has your mood switched any since yesterday?
I was expected to ask me something about my profession, cheesemaker. Okay, this was written that I was prepared for this, but I can answer this.
They can't all be cheese questions, Peter.
Yeah, I know, it's a lot of things is cheese. It was not to motivate me to come here, because I'm already quite motivated to go for a different economic model. So, but seeing this fantastic different initiatives, and that what is happening on the ground and the different debates is encouraging more. than when I walked in.
All right, so you've grown more optimistic. And Hannah, I didn't quite get the answer. Are you more or less optimistic than you walked in yesterday? And you can tell the truth now. You don't have to, before you make your optimistic choice.
I'd say as optimistic, but I'm already quite optimistic.
That's a great way to be, and the curse of youth. Let me ask you this. It's your second year at the forum. Has anything struck you as particularly different this year than last year?
I think there's sort of 2 points. The first one last year was a lot talking about data and what we're measuring, which is great, but there's only so far measurement can get you. I think this year there was a lot more talking about how to put what we're measuring into action. There's been a lot more case studies, but there's still sort of a lot further that could go. Like, I think we need some really frank conversations about where things are going horribly wrong and where some of that discomfort is. I think last year as well, there was, I think most people, the highlight was the youth panel on the first day. This year, I think there has been a conscious effort to try and include more diversity of age throughout the programming, but I've got like a question to the audience. Half of the world's population is under 30. Who here in the audience is under 30? Like, I wouldn't say that's half the audience. No. A third of the world's population is under 20. How many of the audience is under 20? Woo!
I'm not sure I believe you.
So I think at the moment we have a very sort of like linear career progression, and that's reflected in sort of who we have here, and I think there's more that could be done to include youth meaningfully, and I think Peter's work does that really, really well.
What about yourself, Peter? Would you like to see more young folks here?
Yes, absolutely. So this is exactly, that was in my briefing notes. My colleagues followed all the debates over the 2 days and said, Peter, mention the youth. This is exactly what we are missing. So we would like to see that the youth is much more involved as it was. And we, the European Economic and Social Committee, we launched the process already years ago in order to onboard the youth meaningfully and structurally. So that's a bit a pity. We could like to do it more. But I do speak in behalf of the European Economic and Social Committee, not in behalf of the coordination group of the European Circular Stakeholder Platform. So we have other colleagues here. They are chairing this.
Let me ask you, you just said you started a year ago a program to try and get more youth involvement.
5 years ago.
5 years ago, sorry. How's it been working?
Very well.
Very well?
Very well. Youth, that's the point.
I don't want to be all last year on you, but do you have any data?
Yes, not concrete data in terms of figures, but the data, it's clear that we involve the youth into our opinion making. So it means we give them the opportunity to join, they choose, and they give us the input on that, what they think that the input must be, and the input is always brilliant.
Well, that's fantastic. Peter, you said you've seen some things that made you more optimistic since you've been here. Has there anything that's been just good old-fashioned surprising? Anything really strike you as something you weren't looking ready for?
That's the encouragement of the people. That's really good to see. But I have also points that I would like to address in saying, look, when we talk about a circular economy, what I missed really here was to address a couple of points which strikes me. Because if you want to change the current situation, then we can't do it with the current economic model. And this is not enough, it was not enough addressed. We hear we must have sustainable growth, we hear we must have a competitive environment, and no one is addressing really that we have different interests in the system, and this is not addressed. And we have to address it, because if we do not address this, that we can't solve our problems with the current model which has created the mess in which we are. So I would like to see it much more, perhaps in the next time, to discuss more critically this system change, what we would need in order to do it. And for this we need money. For all the change we need money. And we have so many people in the world, they have so much money, they could spend it immediately, but they don't spend it. And that's a problem. So that's why my answer, my personal answer to this is that simple. Just tax the rich.
I would go out and get a tax the rich tattoo right now with you, Peter. I couldn't agree more. And I come from the country where somehow we think the opposite is a great idea. Hannah, I wonder, well, I also come from the country where a third of us believe that global warming is caused by the warmth of Jesus' love, so we've got a lot of problems. Hannah, same question. Well, I'm curious what you found missing besides the presence of youth, because that's an interesting take from Peter. What did you want to see here again besides more young people?
I think there was a lot more case studies of sort of how we could put things into place, and there were representatives of some cities, and shout out to Leuven, who are doing really, really cool things. But I think there could be more examples of how we're actually implementing these initiatives and sort of like beginning to tackle this systems change, and just more candid conversations about what's really hard and what's maybe going wrong. Like, I'd love to hear more from startups about like where they're getting a lot of resistance when they're trying to implement their solutions, where the questions, the no's they're getting from investors after getting a lot of, yes, this is really great, and yes, this is really necessary, but why is that dotted line not being signed?
That's fantastic. I mean, it's a fantastic observation. It's not a great thing that's missing. Let me ask you the opposite question then. For both of you, what are things that you can take away from the forum and actually put into action? And that's actually been the question I've been asking people that I bump into when we're eating lunch or whatever, is like, what are some actionable takeaways from these 2 days for you two?
I think the power of just asking and talking with other people. I think what I really like about this forum is just there is so many breaks and everyone is quite friendly and you can sort of ask what they're doing. I think there's a lot of power in the collaboration, like a perfect circle that's closed off to integration with other systems, with other countries, with other people. Like, that's nice, but it's not really like systemic major change. So yeah, being comfortable in sort of like reaching out to other people, having conversations, and just keep on building that sort of collaborative momentum.
Reaching out. And well, I'm curious how, because of course for all of us to talk to each other, you know, we're already in the boat. You know, I wonder how do you talk to folks that maybe aren't thinking about circular economy?
So my background's storytelling and communications, and I think to anyone outside of this room, they don't really understand the difference between circular economy, sustainability, nature, biodiversity, climate. So I think instead of getting fussy about the differences, just sort of being open to the fact that maybe different people have different understandings of the terms, but let's come together about the shared goal. And like, as the specialists and the technical thinkers, we can figure out the details, but with getting sort of like the broader community on board, like creating space for people to feel comfortable to also have the questions, and even if they don't have like the expertise, I think there's a big gap there with people who maybe are afraid of even asking us what it is.
But don't be too fussy. That's a great call. Peter, what about yourself? And it's a two-pronged question now. What's an actionable takeaway for you?
The connection with the Global South.
Connection with the Global South.
So these conferences have also the purpose for us as European Economic and Social Committee to find partners whom we can collaborate. Of course, the first step in Europe, because that's normally our task. But as we talk about the necessity for really a change within the supply chains, because we have global supply chains, is to connect and to collaborate with the Global South. And these are the moments where we have to talk and to discuss. So along this event, a lot of chats and a lot of talks have been taken, and that's for me the biggest asset to take away from this.
That's fantastic. Look, we've just got a couple of minutes left, but I want to give you all the chance to ask each other a question if you have one for the other. Is there anything you would say to each other now on stage in front of all of these folks and ask a question? You don't have to.
How do you find this moderator? You ask us.
Peter, I'm interested what you'd do differently next year if you're in charge of programming. Number one session you'd put on.
You mean in terms of circular economy? So we're going to redesign the European circular economy platform. So we discuss already right now, from the time being, how we can upscale it, but as I said, also to get in touch with the Global South, and also to see what is needed now to, I don't want to say modernize because it's not the right wording, but to make the platform fit for the future in order to meet the needs for another and to make the world a better place.
You maybe have a question for Anna?
I asked her already what she's thinking.
Yeah, but she didn't answer.
Yeah, that's my problem.
I think her not answering was kind of an answer, though.
No, not concretely the question. So what shall we do also for the organizers in order to involve more youth?
I think both organizers and attendees ask youth, sort of go through the process. It's a bit unfair, I think, to constantly expect marginalized and less represented groups, whether that's women, whether that's youth, whether that's stakeholders from the Global South, expecting people to ask to be included. There needs to be some really active participation, and it's also okay to ask for recommendations. Like, there are some youth here who know other youth, and I think a lot of the delegates from the Global South are doing some really cool South-to-South cooperation that we could say is far ahead some of the stuff that we're doing up here in Europe. So yeah, just asking more people to join the table. We can just make a bigger table.
I think it's going to be asking, and also maybe asking in the form of a plane ticket as well, because
Yes.
for a lot of youth that don't live, you know, in Northern Europe, it's tricky.
Yeah, it's about, it's not just about distributing space and the platform, it's also about like giving power to it. Like, youth isn't just like a tick box participatory exercise. Young people should be absolutely paid on parity for their participation.
That is a fantastic place on which to stop. I wish we didn't have to, but we do. Hannah and Peter, thank you so much. How about a round of applause for Hannah and Peter?
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to move back to the more formal podium, so you know things are getting more formal. What I'd like to do is bring up a speaker. This is the Foresight lead for Sitra, and he leads the Foresight team and is also a docent of future studies at Aalto University. Folks, please welcome to the stage Mikko Dufva.
Thank you so much. Great to be here. I want to start by reading from this diary. This is not a typical diary, because this diary is from the future. So, here we go. April 16, 2027. Dear diary, it has been 2 months since the government-led circular lifestyle experiment began, and a truck drove away with most of my possessions. 8 months left of owning only 100 items. At the start of the experiment, I felt fulfilled to be contributing to the circular shift, but also worried that owning less would create challenges living in a community where your worth is measured by the number of things you possess. That fear has somewhat gone away now, although my mom says that I look like a portrait, always wearing the same clothes. I do have some regrets, like not checking the condition of the clothing that I kept, and not learning to use the sewing machine at the library. I also miss the small things I struggle to rent. Like today, I once again cursed giving away my garlic press. And only one sharp knife left, I call mine, so it's chop, 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 and lots of dishwashing in between. So annoying. All that said, I would still recommend others to give living with less a try. You really get to know yourself a lot better. Before the experiment, I think my identity was largely tied to my things. So I was the books I owned. I was the clothes I owned. I was the skincare items I owned. When the majority of these items disappeared from my life, I had to recreate myself. With less stuff, you have so much more freedom. Less choices, perhaps, but more freedom. I've eaten out more, spent more time together with my family, and had more conversations with friends about the need for things. I feel happy in a way I never got from stuff. And I also feel much more ready for the future. Now, this was not written by me. It was actually written by participants to the future simulation exercise we ran last week. The setup was that there is this government-led experiment looking for volunteers to try living with 100 items or less for 1 year, and then seeing kind of what happens. I think some of you who participated in that experiment are in this hall. Perhaps some of you are watching online. Huge thanks to all of you from these inspiring snippets and glimpses into this different future. I wanted to start with this example because often we think that futures thinking is something mystical or mythical or really kind of hard to do. But as this experiment or the future simulation showed that it's actually something that we can all do. We can all think ourselves in different futures and even create memories of these futures and perhaps learn something on the way and act better today. So by futures thinking, I mean understanding the current changes, identifying and challenging the assumptions we have about futures, imagining alternative futures, and reflecting all of this back into present action. Now, if you're wondering, well, this sounds a bit like over the top, does it actually pay off? Yes, it does. Research has shown that future-prepared firms outperform the average firm. So René Rohrbeck, Rethinking, Kuhm, and others have done this research looking at the foresight and futures capability of different European multinational firms working in energy and retail and telecom, lots of other sectors, and then they kind of followed them from 2008 to 2015 and noticed that those firms who are doing futures thinking, who are thinking about kind of different futures and challenging their assumptions, they have higher profitability and higher growth. And this comes from being able to kind of challenge the path dependency that the other companies then are on and create a competitive advantage from that. Now, I must point out that there are different ways to think about futures. So often we would want to kind of predict the future, that what will happen next. And this might work if there wouldn't be a thing called uncertainty or unpredictability. So predictions, we know that in these times it's really hard to make predictions. So we often turn to making different scenarios or visions of future and try to kind of grasp that uncertainty. But perhaps we are living now in so uncertain times, so unpredictable times, that we need to also focus on challenging the assumptions we have about futures, challenging the stories we tell about futures, and create and imagine really different stories about futures and create different futures. So focus on these narratives and transformation. Okay, so how to do this actually in action? I'm going to give you a very kind of easy framework and kind of 3 steps to follow to improve your futures thinking. I know all of you here like circles, but I'm going to mix things up a bit and present a triangle. So bear with me. This is a futures triangle by futurist Sohail Inayatullah, and it looks at, surprisingly, 3 things. So often we focus on the push of the present. These are all the changes that are happening now, and this is a good place to start. But perhaps we also need to focus a bit on the weight of the past and pull of the future. So the weight of the past is all about challenging the assumptions we have, thinking about what kind of ways of thinking we are carrying with us that are not necessarily serving us anymore. The pull of the future is all of these different ideas about futures that we have, and perhaps it's time to kind of broaden that range and imagine radically different futures, reframe futures. So I'm going to go a bit deeper into each of these, starting with the push of the present. So how do we create shared understanding of changes? Often when I hear people talking about futures, I kind of hear them talking actually about the present or even the past. I think futurist Alex Steffen has put it brilliantly that we are not yet ready for what has already happened. We are not we are talking about things that have already happened as though they would be coming in the future. So we are not yet ready for what has already happened. We have seen this picture in this conference a couple of times. We have crossed 6 of the 9 planetary boundaries. Are we ready for this? If you think about the future or even the present, I think that this is the kind of the mental mode that we enter, that, okay, what is going on here? We have the ecological crisis, we have a hostile geopolitical situation, we have an economic crisis, we have a rapid technological development, etc., etc. So we need to we can't turn our eyes away from all of these challenges. We need to think through them. We need to think beyond them. And then we can also find opportunities and possibilities that do exist. We can move quickly with ecological reconstruction and fossil fuel use and resource overconsumption, because we can focus on holistic well-being, planetary health, sustainable lifestyles. We can enhance participation, create stronger trust within our society, fight polarization. We can build a fair digital world. We can find the rules for a fair data economy. And we can rethink the way our economy works. We can move towards a more restorative and regenerative economy. And of course, circular economy plays a huge role here. So perhaps the first key takeaway question I want to leave you with is that what would be the one current change you want to reinforce? It's good to know all of the changes that are happening, but what is the change you actually want to strengthen? Moving on to challenging the old assumptions. So this is all about asking, what if? I'm going to give you a couple of examples of this. So in the 1800s, this was what industrial scale recycling looked like. So you took old rags and put into a machine called the devil, which grinded them up, and from these snippets you created a new material called shoddy wool. So imagine yourself in the 1800s asking the question, hey, what if we could do something with these old rags? What if we could actually reuse them and create clothes out of them? Another example comes from the 1950s. There was this comic strip called Closer Than You Think, which there were different kind of depictions of futures, and one of them was this idea of disposable clothing that you would buy by the dozens and change them by the hour, and then literally set them on fire after you've used them. This idea didn't quite catch on, but we still can see the what if question. What if clothes were disposable in, for example, fast fashion? Which is not that far from this idea. So the important thing is to ask what if questions, some further what if questions to get you inspired. In the future simulation, the participants thought that, okay, what if we owned less? What would it actually feel like, look like? There are also signals of libraries offering more than books, or seeds being more valuable than timber. The key thing here is asking the what if question. So what would be the one assumption you want to challenge? What is your what if question? Finally, moving on to the last part, pull of the future. So reframing and imagining futures. There are bigger changes ahead than we want to admit, or that we are even kind of ready to admit to ourselves or are aware of. We live in these post-normal times of surprises, post-normal meaning that the whole idea of what is normal is not that useful anymore. And in these times, the old ideas about futures no longer suffice. So we need different kinds of narratives about futures, challenging the current ones. I think in many countries we have been given this promise of consumer society, so that if you just consume, you can consume your way to happiness. But that is falling apart if it ever was true. We can't consume our way to a sustainable future. And therefore we are left with this unknown future, or pictures of doom and gloom. So we really need to imagine different futures, but how do we do it? Well, surprisingly, you have already kind of took the first two steps there. The first step is to understand the current changes, to really understand kind of what is happening now. Second step is to challenge your assumptions about futures in order to create the space for new ideas to emerge. And then, of course, you would assume the third one, well, then just imagine, but the third one is actually listening to others, listening to what kind of ignored voices there are, what are others saying about what is a preferable future. And then we can move on to imagining and reframing, taking all of this and reframing the discussion. So if this sounds kind of huge, I can't do that, it can start simply. For example, in the futures simulation, the participants started with the question, what does your first day owning only 100 items look like? So what would be one new story about the future you want to tell? Enough of me talking, now it's time for you to discuss. So I think all of us here want a circular future. So in order to reach that, what would be the one current change to reinforce, the one assumption to challenge, and the one new story to tell? I'm going to ask you to turn to the person next to you and discuss any of these questions. And if you're following online, you can write your answers to the chat. We'll take 2 minutes for discussion, and time starts now. All right, can I have your attention? I know this was a risk that I'm taking. Thank you. I'm sure we can all continue this discussion afterwards. But now we have time to take just a few voices from the first rows to the practicalities. So Emma here has the microphone. Who wants to very briefly, in 10 seconds, say share a thought you discussed? There's one.
I would like to challenge the assumption that a circular life is more difficult, sustainability is too expensive, and that our lifestyle will be worse than it is now.
Thank you so much. One more. There.
Yeah, we were talking about that you really need a societal change in education, and so that's what maybe is also missing here in the forum today and yesterday, that we're not talking about how we can get actually a societal change.
Thank you. Emma, do we have something from the online audience?
We have a great discussion Going on in the online chat as well, and one idea here was that in the future our motto could be being instead of having. I really loved that.
All right, being instead of having. Thank you. Okay, that was Futures Thinking in less than 20 minutes. If you're interested in hearing more and reading more, go to sitra.fi or scan that QR code. You can find a lot of materials, a lot of different tools. You can also find those from the Sitra stand at the expo area. I thank you very much and wish you very inspiring futures.
Thank you, Mikko. Thank you so much for that peek into the future. Reading someone's diary, I felt guilty and I knew it was fake. I'd like to bring up now the Commissioner of International Partnerships for the European Union. In this role, she oversees the European Commission's work on international cooperation and sustainable development. Please welcome Jutta Urpilainen.
Thank you very much, honorable ministers, ladies and gentlemen. As the world convenes in Brussels to advance the circular economy transition globally, I have to say that I'm very pleased to address this forum. As the poet Wendell Berry said, we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children. Over the past 2 days, you have explored ideas and solutions that really can advance our transition to a greener world. A world that increases prosperity without compromising on climate, biodiversity, and the environment. A world that balances the needs of today with the goals and aspirations of tomorrow. I think this panel we just heard captures the spirit of what we are trying to achieve, and I would like to thank my fellow speakers for sharing their perspectives. I think for me the key takeaway is predicting the future may not be possible, but rethinking it, influencing its course, is firmly within our grasp. So today, I have to say, as a politician, as a commissioner, I am convinced we can shape the future we desire. And indeed, we already are. Here in Europe, the EU Circular Economy Action Plan has become a key building block of the Green Deal. We have launched ambitious initiatives along the entire product life cycle, from product design to consumption and the waste treatment. And together, we are keeping resources in the European economy for as long as possible. But, dear friends, our efforts reach far beyond Europe. The EU has also made circularity a priority of our international partnership investments. Over the past 3 years, the EU has committed 1.6 billion euros to programs that contribute to foster the circular economy transition. Through our Global Gateway strategy, we are working hand in hand with partner countries to increase sustainable infrastructure investment, promote low-carbon economies, and strengthen global value chains. Our investments aims to improve people's lives. For example, the switch to Circular Economy Value Chains initiative fosters skill development and job creation for small and medium-sized suppliers of plastics, textiles, and other products. Meanwhile, our Schmidt Med initiative supports entrepreneurs like Hader Shalabi, who founded Green Fashion. Based in Egypt, Green Fashion transforms textile waste into fashionable products. It advances sustainability, empowers women, and has created already hundreds of job opportunities. Yeah, I think we can give applause for that. And these are just 2 examples of the kind of impact we can achieve through international partnerships. To achieve a global circular economy, we will definitely need more, many more. To that end, I have to say that I'm thrilled to announce the creation of the 15 million euros EU Circular Economy Resource Centre. The centre will act as nexus for collaboration across Europe, Asia, Africa, and Latin America, complementing the efforts of the European Circular Economy Stakeholder Conference. Our vision is to share both policy and business know-how to embed circularity across the full breadth of public and private action. And I want to extend my sincere thanks to Finland and Belgium for co-creating the centre with us. And of course, I encourage other EU member states to join. And I have more good news to share with you today. I am delighted to announce a program called Switch to Circular Economy in East and Southern Africa, for which we will commit 40 million euros over 5 years. And this initiative, which we will carry out together with COMESA, will foster an inclusive transition to circular economy in East and Southern Africa, building capabilities, supporting policy making, and improving access to finance in the plastics and electronics industries. So, dear friends, just as climate transcends borders, so does the circular economy. Our goals reach beyond countries or even continents. They encompass the entire planet. Following very successful events in Africa and Europe, I am very excited to learn that the next World Circular Economy Forum will be traveling to yet another continent. As this year's forum draws to a close, we set our sights on next year. Let's renew our commitment to rethinking the future. Let's make the Earth, the one we borrowed from our children, something we can all be proud of. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jutta. Thank you very much. As Jutta hinted at, the forum is a years-long journey, and in a moment we're going to be looking at a video celebrating that journey. But here's the thing: as she also said, we are drawing to a close. We're in what we call the home stretch of these 2 days, and you've got plenty more to do this week, and 80 other events around the world for the rest of the year. There's plenty more WCEF action for you, but these 2 days are winding down. So before, because it is hard not to start thinking about the future, we already got a hint, it's going to be a different continent this year. What I want to do is, while the video is playing, I'd like you to go on the app and answer the question, where do you think the forum will be next year? and we'll see who can get close. So you go to the app, just with your peripheral vision, with your main vision, your fovea, focus, let's take a look at this video on the journey of the forum. Let's take a look.
สวัสดีค่ะ
Or we don't have to. Where could it be? All right, let's take a look. Let's put up that word cloud and see what folks seem to think. I'm curious what we had some hints there because we saw where it definitely won't be. So we got some Thailand, a lot of Brazil, Thailand, China, Africa. We know for a fact it won't be Africa. In fact, get that guess out of here. Canada, Sweden, a lot of leaning Brazil. A lot of leaning Brazil. They didn't tell me, so I don't know the answer. But what I would like to do is invite some folks on the screen to discuss where it is. And I don't want anyone to think there's any hints in the folks I'm inviting up. This could all be coincidence. First, I'm going to invite up the president of Sitra and the Finnish Innovation Fund. Please welcome to the stage Atte Jääskeläinen. Atte, come on up. I'm keeping the seat. You can take a seat. Well, now it's up there. Why am I saying anything? Please, welcome to, again, this doesn't mean anything. It could be anywhere. Aloysio Nunes, the head of strategic affairs for Europe, Brazilian Trade and Investment Promotion Agency. And of course, Nelson Pereira de Reis, president of the Federation Industries of the state of São Paulo. Could all be coincidences. Let's a round of applause as we welcome these gentlemen to the stage. You have a conversation. My money's on Thailand.
What a coincidence.
Yes.
What a coincidence.
So Brazil it is. Well, Aloysio, why Brazil? Why World Circular Economy Forum in Brazil?
Why not Brazil? Well, according on one of the founders of geopolitics, George Kennan, Brazil is considered a monster state with United States, China, India, Russia are included in this concept. Huge population, continental territory, and production, and the ambition to participate in the discussion of the global issues that influences our life in Earth. Brazil is a monster state, but it's a kindly monster, a democratic monster, a friendly monster, peaceful monster, and we have many assets to host the next edition of this forum. Brazil plays a significant role in the sustainability agenda in the world. We have one of the cleanest energy metrics in the world. Consider that more than 80% of our electricity is based in renewable sources, hydroelectric, wind, and sun. We have a huge economy, agricultural economy. We are good and we are providers of food, minerals, not only for us, but in the foreign commerce. If you consider, for instance, the production of green hydrogen, with our green energy, electric energy, we can be enormous providers of green hydrogen. As we are providers of many biofuels, for instance, our ethanol, biomethane, etc. In our agriculture, we can, in many regions, Brazilian regions, we can say that the intensification of the use of the land means productivity. We can produce in 1 year 2 or 3 crops successively without the need of adding new lands for cultivation. Yeah? There is a strong commitment by the Brazilian government today, and certainly today Brazil is presenting in many international forums discussing this issue, how to implement the transition towards a circular economy. We have a legislation in Brazil, not quite recently, since 2010, we have a system enforced by law of waste solid disposal. We have a very good forest code. I was senator when this code was approved. It's a model for the world. And nowadays, the Congress is discussing on a law to create a national system of circular economy. It was approved by the Senate, and now it is in the chamber. We have financial instruments to implement this agenda. We have an important national development bank that can provide financing. One of the issues of this transition is financing. And we have a partnership, strong partnership between government, universities, research institutes, and private companies engaged in this agenda. And I have with me here a colleague that represents here the Industrial Federation of São Paulo. That is the core of our industry. Our industry is very vast. We can produce from slippers, Havaiana, that many of you have worn, and we can produce airplanes, Embraer. So I think that the circular economy, the concepts of a circular economy are already being very attractive for new investments, creating jobs, creating new models of business, and creating opportunity to overcome poverty and inequality. So I am very pleased to invite you, as Vice President Alckmin did in a letter addressed to you, to come to Brazil next year, to see with us what we are doing, to exchange ideas, to forge partnerships into the direction of a circular economy transition in the world. Brazil it is already a key partner in this path.
I think everybody can agree that circular economy surely has relevance in Brazil and the importance of Brazil in this topic globally. But Nelson, what is the? Of course, we already heard quite a lot about the state of circular economy in Brazil and in Latin America. What could you add on that?
We are full committed putting our efforts to foster the adoption of good practice for the continuous improvement of our industries towards the transition to a low carbon and a circular economy. I'd like to highlight our responsibility in providing education, reskilling, research and job-specific technical skills for the industry, the professionals. I think that it's mandatory to work on this line. As the minister said, we borrow from our children the land. So we have to create an environmental and educated and give skills for them to go ahead with this mission of getting the circular economy in Brazil.
Yeah.
May I add something?
Yep.
Brazil we are good relationships with all the other countries in South America. Peaceful and good relationships. And holding this forum in Brazil, it will be a good occasion to invite our neighbors in order to create a Latin American, South American agenda in circularity.
So the preparation starts, I think, tomorrow, but do you have any hints what the participants here could expect from next year forum in Brazil, or are there a takeaway from this conference that you want to develop on next year?
We foresee many opportunities to promote a better integration of Latin America and Caribbean to accelerate the adoption of disruptive technologies and the new business models, permanently seeking to incorporate the principles of the circular economy. The conservation and sustainable management of biodiversity and the ecosystem services are essential to the competitiveness and sustainable development. I think that this is what the region is stronger to offer to the world community, the biodiversity, to look for solutions come from the nature. You know that Latin America and Caribbean together hold more than 50% of the biodiversity resources in the world. So I think that is this way to reinforce and support the circular economy in the future.
Great. We only have less than a minute left, but in one sentence, why should everybody join next year forum in Brazil?
To build the concept of circular economy, because I think that it's a concept that is in process to build. And the participation of different continents, different countries, different cultures is important to build this concept to be something that could be effective in the world.
Nelson, your promotion sentence.
Yeah, I think that we can, besides a warm reception in São Paulo, we can offer the opportunity to explore São Paulo, and we can offer a contribution to the global efforts towards the transition to a circular economy and a better understanding of the realities of our countries, Latin America and Caribbean.
Thank you, and already the city was mentioned, so welcome next year, Brazil, Sao Paulo. Thank you.
Thank you, fellas. Congratulations, Brazil. I don't know if it's a congratulations moment, but I think we're all excited about it. Thank you, Nelson, Aloysio, Atte, and of course, Jutta, Mikko, and my panel, Hannah and Peter. Mostly, in fact, how about a round of applause for everyone who participated in this session? But most of all, before we say farewell, I want to thank you all very much for being such an active part of these 2 days. Don't let the conversation end once we turn off my microphone, which frankly can't happen a moment too soon. I recommend, before you get up, reach across to someone that you don't know, someone you can make eye contact right now with you don't know, have a conversation with them, tell them what moved you the most, what is a change you can make starting tomorrow, and what inspired you the most about these 2 days. Let's start a conversation and keep it going. Also, take our feedback survey. Make sure you do that so we can get better and better and better, and then y'all will know what to improve when we see you next year on São Paulo. I'm Pep Rosenfeld. Thank you all very much for being here. We'll see you next time.